Hi, everyone. Welcome to my session for the RefoundEd Education Summit. I'm so happy that you're watching. Thank you so much for being here. So we are going to discuss our children's future and the evolution of education to give you a better understanding. So let's dive right in. So my name is Jeannette Eastin. I'm a mom, nerd, lifelong learner, teacher, healer, been a counselor for many years in the mental health sector, creative problem solver, a maker. I'm a wife and a connector. I love connecting people to each other and watching beautiful collaborations happen. So why am I doing this? Well, my why, of course, is my children. Like so many of us that have started building, who felt frustrated with advocacy, feeling like we weren't going anywhere. We wanted to plant those seeds so that they have a future that we can be proud of. So public education, well, it's like one very bad Bud Light commercial, and just keeps getting worse. The mandates, all the things, it's done with intention because they have a goal and they have an objective. But families want academics over agendas. They understand they need to prepare their children for a future that they are unsure about in terms of what opportunities will be available, how we're going to grow. And we understand that we need to take a neo-traditional approach. So we need to teach skills of old, skills of new, and skills of the future. So we want to ensure that our kids have a very robust upskilling. That means that they will know how to homestead and take care of their chickens or a beehive, or both make their own cheese and tallow creams. And they'll also be able to do engineering projects and just go where their heart desires and have a support system to push them wherever they may want to go. Because if their interests drive their education, they'll be far more motivated. And that's what we want, motivated, self-sustaining adults in our future. That's what we need, the leaders of tomorrow. So the goal was to privatize. On the way to privatization, they cause chaos. And they capitalize on the problems and the solutions. They are expect to grow to $10 trillion, but they already have all of the funding. So we want to make sure that we protect the interests of the grassroots initiatives that are working tirelessly every day. They've been talking about doing this for some time, and we can see that in some of the topics, like at the Harvard University conference. I have shared this with educators in my network, but of course, we have lots of new listeners and people that are new to the realm of alternative education. So let's take a look. Should school boards run schools? Are school boards democratic? If not boards, who? The case for alternative school governance, which we're going to discuss further, and how to counteract. How can school boards navigate the culture wars? Which is ironic since the powers that be created those very culture wars. Do school boards represent parents' interests? Do unions have too much power over school boards? Essentially, they've been planting the seeds for privatization for some time. So even though people in the public system, I know you may not be thrilled, but the powers that be have taken a cut to make this work. So, and honestly, at this point, I like the idea of privatization because I think the heart-centered people can really take this in a positive direction. So traditional hierarchies are top down. So you have people at the top just dictating to the bottom, and with the resources focused mainly on the top. So think about the top 1%. It applies to everything. Top 1% of all business structures. And education is a business. That's how universities have built many cities. And yeah, and there's so many entities that educators pay into. And they, quite frankly, they make hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. It is insane. So, and what also happens that people are unaware of is there's a lot of pocket padding at the top 1%. So say, for example, a corporation wants to be a preferred vendor. They pay their way to be there. So it acts as a gate. It's gatekeeping to the smaller entities that have incredible ideas that should be given traction, but they're not even given a chance. And even ideas created by the people that are on the front line that are not considered. So the proposal is we flip the hierarchy. That means that all the people on the front are the planners, the organizers, they're directing and they're in control of where things go. Leadership becomes more of a support system and we respond to their needs. And there's that communication piece that needs to go back and forth from families to educators to everyone within the community. So the growth of alternative education. I used a tree of life symbol to kind of provide a visual that people can connect with. So decentralized systems are great because everyone is their own entity. So you see all these schools, it doesn't even touch on how many there are. There are so many more. But we collaborate based on our alignment. And is everybody perfectly aligned? No, it's impossible to satisfy everyone. But when we can come together to align bigger goals, we can do greater things. One of those things is use our numbers to garner perks and keep overreaching governance at bay. Because when you have the numbers, when we are the majority, when families are happy with what we're doing, when educators are just building and it's more powerful, their curriculums, everything, it's going to become very evident and that will shift the powers to the people. We co-create and drive funding as a collective to improve access. So a lot of people are creating beautiful solutions and not everyone can do everything. So if we can drive funding to each other as a collective to access resources, it'll be better. So for example, an inner city school or someone in a more urban environment can have access to like homesteading or other things that, you know, their environment may limit their access. Because when we start doing that, we start spreading the seeds of change everywhere, where kids in a lot of urban environments, the rascally types, they love agriculture, they love gardening, they love being in nature. The response has been phenomenal. So improving that access for them, for neurodivergent, it would be a very big blessing. So and together we can ensure the needs within our communities are being met because we're listening to each other and bringing the voices of these smaller communities, because all of these educators have their own mini communities and they start interconnecting with other people's communities. Next thing you know, you have these multiple networks that have connection points to one another. And things just kind of fall into place very organically and naturally. So sharing resources to meet those needs, utilizing the networks of families who are committed to growth. So the early adopters are the ones that do have access to some more funding. And usually they're entrepreneurs or, you know, they have a lot of success in whatever industry. And it's really great because those children that express interest, they are tomorrow's leaders. So to have mentors and parent and other families that we can do exchanges between one another, ensures that our children will grow in a positive direction and promote ethical growth in the future because they'll have great role models. So co-create and drive funding as a collective. So low-income areas, I don't think they should be ignored. I would like to, I know we had some pushback with the tuition funds and that kind of thing, but I just want to see improved access to them, to neurodivergent kids, where the cost of like one-to-one or specialized services are higher and they don't have the means. And it would just be nice to improve the quality of life for as many people as we can, because when one of us rise, we all start to rise together, especially if we take each other along for the ride. An example is, I'll tell a story that, so I came from, roughish neighborhood, and with humble beginnings. My mom was a cleaning lady and nanny for some very affluent people in the community, from CEOs to people with law firms and, very successful businesses. Now they loved my mom. The kids loved my mom. She became a part of the family, and they would always invite us to events. But my mom was a very nervous person. She was introverted. Her English wasn't perfect. And she told me that, but I asked her, why would you make yourself feel uncomfortable? What's the point? Why bring us? And she said that she'll never have that kind of money to be able to give us that kind of life. But she said that it was worth being uncomfortable to give us access to people who have the resources. And she was right, because I appreciate her sacrifice. Because honestly, as a young person, I was doing trade shows with someone who had a Japanese ribbon company. I wanted to be a lawyer, but realized it was more paperwork than and not so much like the back and forth you see on television. It's a little bit, it's different. And so I learned that wasn't for me. And yeah, I realized though that I loved being with children, working with kids. And yeah, I'm very grateful for that, for those opportunities. And I wouldn't have been given those opportunities to grow if my family wasn't as committed and willing to put themselves out there the way they did. So, and I'm grateful to the families she worked for being kind and making her a part of the family. But it's just an example of improving access to people that may not necessarily have that. So collaborating with larger entities towards common goals such as homeschooling networks. So they have been trying to govern homeschooling networks. It's always been like a bit of a back and forth, right? They try different tactics, and they have been able to keep a lot of the governance at bay, which is really amazing because, and I think if we utilize our numbers between all of us, we can make it so that we're just left alone, because most of us just want to be left alone to raise our children to have the best possible future they can have. And it's actually a lot more simple than people think. That can only happen if we work together. So redesign and implement new curriculums and push higher level growth. So a funny thing people keep talking about is the Ontario curriculum. With these grassroots initiatives, they are exceeding any potential government framework that they have. They are far exceeding it in ways that are inspiring. The curriculums that are starting to emerge, all of these creators, all of these doers, all of these trailblazers, visionaries, they are creating their own, and they are at the point where they're even snowballing and fine-tuning and collaborating with others to develop even further. It's just really magical. So our mission essentially is we're pushing innovation and co-creation and establishing a self-sustainable network to support families and educators in the grassroots education movement. So that's the goal. And right now it's not that far off. We're getting closer every day. So the roots, which are the things that people don't see, the things that kind of go unnoticed behind the scenes that need to happen. So infrastructure. Infrastructure is important because it's kind of like, it's the frame within a home, right? It's the foundation. And we need certain key specializations, like we have someone for HR, we have someone for operations, we have someone to oversee the financial the financial structure, and make sure that we're all going where we need to be to propel our success forward. So everybody, and we have a tech team ready to go once we have the investment. Yeah, so everything, all the dominoes are in a row. And then as the infrastructure and the funding, which is the next point, once we have access, we'll be able to knock one domino at a time and keep growing until, although there will always be a domino to knock over because the needs will never be gone. The needs will evolve as a community and we'll respond to those needs. So early adopters and leadership. So everyone, all these doers and trailblazers are going to be key and very pivotal in the future. They are going to be laying the groundwork for everything that is going to be in existence. And they are going to be the most influential people, which is why we need to make sure that we establish them as thought leaders, share their, everything that they do with local families, with local people, and all the content that they're pushing is actually very heartwarming and hopeful. So I do encourage you to share what these early adopters are doing because, yeah. Advanced curriculum. So like I had mentioned before, everything is evolving and we'll be able to really improve on the curriculum aspects and what is it can't all be AI, it can't all be virtual. You can't lose that human connection, those components, those connections to nature. And educators are critical in that development. And then as they develop, we're also going to put things in place where there's research and measures of their success. So we can start proving that we are on the right trajectory. So we're already starting to see a lot of successes. So people that the early adopters who've had children for a bit more of an extended time, a lot of new parents with very young children that are seeing the system as for what it is and are choosing right off the bat not to even go into public school. Those will be really great measures of success because we can compare their development to the development in public systems and prove that our models are the way forward. Resource sharing. So we need to pool our resources, of course. We need to ensure a democratic process. So again, the point is everyone's responding to the needs of community. And it's a ripple effect between everyone on the front line, the families, the educators, because even these educators that are on the front line, they're going to be a part of the management process, right? So it'll be based on what people want to, like, essentially you can build and create your job as you see fit and set the roles and duties according to kind of life you want to have and the kind of future you're looking forward to. Networking is very essential. We need to connect with each other. A lot of these educators are busting their butts on a daily They're sweating. They are so committed, but we don't want them to be martyrs. We want them to be elevated to the moon and beyond. So we have to have these opportunities to network, and we're going to be building on those so that we can have a better sense of community. Yeah. So essentially what we are and what we will fully develop towards is being an innovative all-in-one education management platform and booking system that connects families, educators, and communities to facilitate educational opportunities for children. The Underground Railroad of social media is, it's a lot. If all the educators and small businesses hit up social media, essentially it's going to be, it will become saturated. It's kind of unavoidable because of what it is. So I think the growing networks for small businesses, for, you know, health and wellness, I think these networks are going to be fantastic because not only can we interconnect with one another and align with each other, but it'll make finding solutions easier. You're, you know, less scrolling online, more time with family, more time, you know, investing in the things that you're building in with, because it's always a time exchange, right? And so there's only so much time, and the time we have with our children passes so quickly. So the service offerings for families, so the standard directory, book a program, and mentorship programs. That we'll need more time to develop that, of course. And then service offerings for educators, job board, supply educators, everyone's their own contractor. Rent a space so they can rent learning spaces and people can facilitate different programs. So you have a school. It's hard to run a school all day. So it'll be nice to kind of bring in other expertises as an after school program, or just incorporate other things so that the kids are getting new experiences and the educators have, you know, a break from the day at the same time. So that's pretty cool. And some of these young teachers can get their feet wet in terms of, you know, building a program or building anything. Professional development. So all of these key leaders they need to share their expertises. They need to connect with other educators, and it'll be a lot more reasonable when we're sharing the cost or doing things a la carte. A lot of educators, they want to upskill, they want to grow, but they are so insanely busy. So we'll be able to have professional development at different, you know, that encompass an array of choices in terms of financial, the level of commitment, because some programs, you know, professional development needs more commitment, and some don't have the commitment to give right away or need to level up before they can. And we want to make sure that they can access what they can when they need to. So web services and marketing, and entrepreneurial services, of course, when we pool our resources, we'll be able to access, you know, more reasonable costs. Client management system, of course, any support doing the back end will save you time. And then service offerings. So for community, socials and events, and partnerships and grants. And some of these things are underdeveloped, but, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the investment will come. And then there's no stopping us. So public schools. So let's take a look at the, you know, competitive analysis. So public schools, for example, cost, and you can just read the points for yourself. We're talking about over 35 million annually, and educators pay 5 to 10K annually to many groups and tax contributions. Educators pay twice towards education, which is at this point comical. So yeah, there's a lot of money that goes into public schools, and I'm not seeing the return of that investment. So homeschool legal defense, the HSLDA. So they've been around for over 3 decades. Their cost is very reasonable, so $156 to $192 per year, $1,500 for a lifetime, and their event costs are $150 to $200, so also reasonable. So we wanted to also be, accessible to people. And right now we are free. We have a free membership because we are mindful of the tough economic times that people are experiencing. But we will grow towards having, and if you can contribute, there is a paid option, and we are grateful for all contributions that will, go towards the innovation. So the first year is $222, and then the second year, $333, and then 13% per booking. And the event vendor costs, we've kept it as low as we can, between $150 and $450. It depends on the size of event, and we respond accordingly. So Our Kids is more of a developed private school network. So private schools tend to go between 20 to 40 K annually. So alternative education is closer to 1,000 to 1,500. I know some alternative schools have priced themselves around 800, but it is, and they've done it to support families, but it is quite a stretch, and the overhead costs are a lot. So a sweet spot on the lower side is $1,000 a month. And yeah, so it all depends on the services and the amenities that they have access to. And then Our Kids is 5,000 to 20,000 a year, and the private schools are 20 to 40 K, and then the vendor costs are 2,800. And I encourage you to take a look at their site and validate the information and have some dialogue. So as I had mentioned before, the listings or the free membership. So it's super easy. Broke it down into 3 simple steps. I'm going to be sharing this more widespread on social media. Simply add your listing to the site. Add your business listing and a job, volunteer, or program listing. I do encourage you to add at least on top of your business listing, at the very least, a volunteer listing, because we have had a huge response from grandparents and retired teachers that they don't want to work on a day-to-day, but they do want to contribute, and they have a lot of skill sets to contribute. And even homeschoolers who their kids aged out and they still want to do something. There are a lot of beautiful contributions that people within the communities can make, and intergenerational collaboration is key for everyone, right? That's what community boils down to. You got to love those grandparents and those retired teachers. They have that experience. They have to trickle it forward. That is cycle of life. So you just connect to your website to your social media URL and you're done. So it's easy, like every social media platform, any kind of listing thing you've ever seen. Picture, name, info, boom, you're done. You do have to put your credit card information, but you will not be charged. So even if your card is maxed out at the moment, that's okay. I understand the cost of doing business, especially in the startup phase, is a lot, but don't worry, you won't be charged, and we'll be able to promote you even more so that you'll have the money to be able to invest in community. Number 2, RefoundEd Member Welcome Handbook. Give details about the membership with 20% off insurance. So yes, 20% off insurance we were able to get. We're really excited. We have a very committed team, and this was all through families and educators and community members. So yes, the power of community. And we have health benefits too. So of course, the more numbers we get, the cheaper it becomes, and hopefully we can work towards getting more holistic health wellness things in there. And there's a lot of new health and wellness networks being built. So you will be able to incorporate more of that. Yes, dreams are never impossible. So number 3, education leadership meeting sign up. Sign up if you're not signed up already. So everything just takes 10 minutes. I know life is very busy, but 10 minutes is all you need to make a difference. So here are some warm smiles and faces of wonderful humans that are in our community. Of course, it's not everyone. There was just too many. But they are phenomenal, and yeah. So we really want to push for people to see these grassroots initiatives for what they are. So and one person who's being recognized, as you saw there, I'll replay. So we're going to Vegas for the education conference because Sylvia from Agora Prep, the founder, won an award. We're so proud of her. And yeah, we're going to get into a room with big thinkers in education, and it'll be great to kind of bring more attention to all these education initiatives that work tirelessly around the clock. And we have sponsorship opportunities. Of course, the Education Summit, we are now done. Please connect with if you want to invest in a docu-series. We have Snap Films who want to kind of record the journey of so many alternative education creators and visionaries and trailblazers. Please contact Alessandra Picon from Snap Films to discuss further. We also have an upcoming science fair. We have a theater group, so we were able to get sponsorships for those, which are exciting. We want to do a TED Talk, a charity proposal. So there's lots of options. And of course, the innovation side. Tech is not cheap. So any support there is always appreciated. So let's connect. So contact information, of course, on the website, info@refounded.ca or Refound Education or @RefoundEd on all these social media platforms. There is always a point of connection. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And in terms of what comes next, so post-secondary is also going to change. So after all of this, the alternative education movement is going to be upskilling our kids in a way that we've never seen. And then what comes next? Some industries do have a higher, I guess, degree of governance. So it will be tricky for some professions, but post-secondary, the return of investment isn't necessarily there anymore. And so people are going to be steering away from some of those traditional options because they're costly. And there's so many new options where you can get a degree for $5,000, or you can pay $70 a month for higher education opportunities, and you're learning from like millionaires and billionaires. And so I think learning from people who do versus just people who teach is going to have widespread difference because you're learning from industry leaders who have actual track records. And no offense, some post-secondary educators do. I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying that you are now competing with some pretty big players. So what is the trajectory that is going to happen in the post-secondary movement? So for those that have children in the alternative education movement, don't worry about all the credentialing. All the rubber stamps are actually not as important as you may think. And we are going to be showing you in the future why it's not as necessary. Because when you have acquired the skill, you've acquired the skill. You're a master. Doesn't matter the grade. When you apply to a job, they don't ask you what grade you got. They just want to make sure that you've acquired the skill necessary for the job. So, and if you want to build your own, well, I want to say you're your own boss, but in turn, you actually end up with many bosses. So, but entrepreneurship is a pretty crazy ride, but it's worth it. So thank you guys, everyone, for listening, and I hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much for attending and showing support to incredible people. Stay hopeful.